The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. The show is brought to you by Levi Solicitors. You can get 10% off your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/The Square Ball. I'm Dan Moylan and I'm joined by Michael Normanton.
Hello.
And Daniel Chapman as well. Moscow White.
Hello.
TSB Plus is on sale for the brand new season. If you want to access every digital copy of the mag that we've done since 2009, all the podcasts ad-free, priority access to the Match Ball podcast after the games and the live video stream on YouTube as well.
Which actually worked.
Which was good fun, wasn't it? If not a little terrifying. That is all on there. Discounts on our merchandise as well. Full details at thesquareball.net/plus. Right into it then, and let's get through the news first in part one. Marcelo Bielsa, our boss at Old Trafford, oversaw a 5-1 pasting, but he's staying for a year.
Going to be expensive to get rid of, isn't he? After that. Oh, well. No, it's good that he's staying, obviously. We knew he would. I mean, it's probably the least surprising news of the summer, isn't it? Given he'd been sat doing pre-season plans the entire time, never left Leeds Yorkshire as far as we're aware anyway.
He went to Scotland.
Did he? The part-time?
Yeah, exactly. Lounging about all summer, eating haggis and deep fried. Well, the opposite. He's come back looking very trim as well, hasn't he?
He has. He's been working out. He's looking good. Some inspiration there.
Maybe that's why Calvin Phillips didn't play. It's not all the stuff I was saying on the propaganda about load monitoring down to the nth degree. It's like you can play when you look like this.
So yeah, he's staying for a year. Meslier has signed a 5-year contract at Leeds United. I'm so proud, he said.
I'm proud of him too. No, he's brilliant, isn't he? I think
he's an underrated part of what happened at Old Trafford on Saturday, because as ever, when he concedes 4-5, if only it was only 4. He was really good. That save from Pascal Struijk, that was good. The looping one that nearly went over him, and then the one that Pogba. Everyone's talking about it that Pogba missed a sitter in the first half, but actually Meslier did a really good job of closing him down and giving him absolutely nowhere to shoot at apart from wide. And and also considering the absolute carnage that was going on in front of him. Another good performance from our keeper, which, bearing in mind that his backup is an even younger child, is good, because we need Meslier to stay being good.
And the backup child saved a penalty against Crystal Palace for the under-23s, which we'll come on to, against Crystal Palace. One thing that Meslier did say, the line that jumped out to me was, "I can't wait to play in the Premier League with Ellen Road full." He's not experienced that, has he, yet?
I mean, he used to be behind the dugout, didn't he, and banging on the roof of it and doing all the cheerleading stuff, didn't he, when in the promotion season, in the early part of it anyway. So it'll be good to see him on the pitch. I mean, I hope he does actually watch what's going on in front of him instead of getting caught up in it. But it was nice to see him get involved in those days.
I think he, along with a number of the players, will really enjoy the atmosphere on Saturday. I think we all will.
I think Rafinha's in for a great time if he plays like he did at Old Trafford. He'll love the way the fans will react to him.
Yeah, his strop doesn't sit that easy with me. I wish he wasn't as stroppy, but I know that his stroppiness is what drives him on to set high standards.
It was difficult to sort of see the line between what was kind of quite a moody performance, then also other aspects of it were just terrible. But then it all got kind of summed up when Roberts played him through at the end and he shot wide, and you could kind of see in his face and the way he was looking at that, he was like, I've just pissed away any chance to have a go at anybody else about this, because you can't miss a chance like that and then sort of go around the place being like, Bamford, why didn't you score today? You know, or Jackie, why didn't you put any good crosses in when you've done that? So he kind of, all the anger in the match, everything that maybe built up where he's like, I'm going to be furious and, you know, I'm not going to take this wasn't my fault, all went in that moment, and you could see he kind of knew it as well. He's like, yeah. I have fucked up.
I think there has been a bit of an overreaction to his performance, and people going, well, that's him Offlin. Like the mixture of him looking pissed off and then
I'll drive him there myself,
and then also liking the Bruno Fernandes thing on Instagram. Some led to a few people going, well, he will be sold before the end of the window, and that's fine. Good riddance to him.
I think there's maybe an angle that we didn't talk about on propaganda, but it's more post-scum stuff, and I suppose there's lots to get out. But last season, when the target was just staying up we treated it at times like a relegation battle, and you could see that in the way that the players kind of performed. There was a lot of real intense hard work to get points won to keep us in the Premier League, having worked so hard to get there. A year further on and having finished 9th, you could be forgiven if you are Rafinha for thinking Premier League's pretty easy, actually. You know, we're a top half team. We start with that status, and we can go to Old Trafford and perform like a top half Premier League player who should be trying to get into the Europa League. And it might be a useful reminder of, like, let's just get back into the mindset where we are 20th at the end of this season if we don't perform in every game, and that might do us better than whatever Rafinha was doing at the weekend. It just, a slow start like that did make me think the players have, I don't know if they've come into this season with a slightly different mindset, whereas last season's approach will probably be more useful in the long run.
I think there's a little bit of self-loathing in there as well, almost with Rafinha, because we're like, well, of course he's going to leave the bloody mercenary, and he's got called up to the Brazil squad, far too big for his boots now, isn't he? Look at him. He thinks he's who's a Brazilian? Rivaldo. That's who he thinks he is.
He thinks he's Neymar. There was quite chastening for Brazil, I think, about their social media graphic when they announced the squad, because they put Rafinha on the same photograph with Neymar, and for us it's like, to have one of our players on a social media graphic with Neymar, that's incredible, shows how far we come. But then the other player on it was Richarlison off of Everton. It's like, well, actually they're not that good really, Brazil anymore, are they?
he can go to Paris anyway, can't he, then, as we've discussed.
Rafinha.
As every player inevitably will do at some stage.
And hopefully we'll get him back in one piece, because the call-ups do throw us a bit of a curveball for the Liverpool game, in that the games against Chile away, Argentina away, Peru at home.
That's easier. There's less travelling there.
Yeah, Peru is at 1:30 a.m. on the 10th of September.
That's UK time.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's a bit mean, making them play at 1:30 in the morning.
Maybe
I mean, any right-thinking footballer would be drunk at that time.
Or maybe they just want them to stay on UK time. That would be the best thing for us, anyway. But then we play Liverpool at 4:30 p.m. on the 12th of September. That doesn't feel like an awful long time later.
Yeah, we'll play Helder Costa against Liverpool, so it'll be fine.
God.
It worked.
Unless he's got a lot of travelling for Angola. I don't know if he's actually going to turn up this time.
It worked on the opening day of the season last year when we won at Anfield. So
that is actually true. Yes, fair enough. And also the other side of this is that Liverpool have 3 Brazilians and we only have 1. So if it's a problem for him, it'll hopefully be a problem for them. I mean, hopefully he can really get into them in training and leave them all in a Virgil van Dijk sort of state just to upset the Scousers. But I mean, it is nice that he's been called up. It was one of those things that I think last year we were like, he should be in the Brazil team. Of course he's good enough. And then he got called up and we saw that he had to play these 3 games in a short space of time and travel halfway around the world. And you're like, oh, what's he been called up for? This is a nightmare for us.
Well, that Brazil, we thought it was the Brazil in the Channel Islands. What the hell?
And it was always nice, like when we used to have Radebe Masinga in the mid-90s. That was very glamorous and exciting and exotic until the African Cup of Nations came around.
Yeboah.
In February, and you lost some of your main players for about a month.
Yeah, it was Yeboah versus Radebe in the African Cup of Nations semi-final just before we played the Coca-Cola Cup final. It was a right old
It was a stitch
problem.
Up. It was a stitch up.
It was a stitch up. Yep. It was very unfair.
The Australians used to have the problem as well, didn't they? When we used to have Kewell and Viduka going off and they'd end up flying back in and they'd landed in the country like 12 hours before we were kicking off against someone, and it was always a bit of a stretch. But, I mean, we should really be pleased with this, shouldn't we?
Yeah, and then Paul Ocon, of course, has carried on the problem.
Clicky's got a call up for Poland as well, which is good for him. We have a game midweek, which is a bit of a novelty. On the Tuesday, isn't it? We've got Crewe in the League Cup at Ellen Road. I was just looking actually back at the last time we played Crewe in the League One days. Do you remember that? That was quaint, wasn't it? In the 2008-9 season, we won 5-2 at Ellen Road, and then we won 3-2 at Gresty Road.
Liam Dickinson played in that game, so consider ourselves lucky. Here we are minutes ago moaning about our player getting a Brazil call up. We had Liam Dickinson last time we played Crewe. It seems like everyone had forgotten about this game. Like even for the tickets and telling us when it was going to be played. It was like, we'll sort it nearer the time then. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what team we put out. I imagine it's going to be a fairly thin sort of scattering of first team squad players and then a load of under 23s. But it'd be good to see him anyway, and I'm pretty sure it'll sell out, which will be nice as well.
And just looking at some of the notable names for the Crew team that played on that day, Tom Pope, was he anything to do with us? Did he come through our junior system or not?
No.
Right.
Are you thinking about the actual Pope?
Could be, yeah.
Although he didn't come through our youth system either. So
Marlon Brooms.
He was a sweeper, wasn't he?
Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Why is nobody laughing at that?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Marlon Brooms was a sweeper. Come on.
Well, I was just alerted to the presence of Gylfi Sigurdsson. That was all. John Ruddy, you had the red cheeks as well.
Yes.
In goal. Anyway, let's move on.
Thank you for that tour of Crew's team. The only reason to do that was a sweeper joke, and you just ignored it.
It felt like a hideous cul-de-sac rather than a tour of Crew.
And you haven't even mentioned Anthony Elding.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see Forshaw in the League Cup game. You imagine he's going to try and get some more game time there, and maybe we'll see little Jimmy Somerville, who's on fine form. Actually, both have been playing for the 23s. Did you watch the Palace game?
I watched the first half of it, and then I thought I'll go back and watch the second half a bit later once I've got a few things done. And then because it was an LUTV, the second half was not available. It doesn't have an instant playback feature. Live Now was better. It was worth saying for these games. Plus, it had a bit of the old LUTV of old, kind of like watching it as a Monet painting. Like it was very. It was a bit of an impression of a football match at points.
Watercolours.
It was a very it was a very blurry edged photo at times.
I think they'll be back on YouTube for the rest of the season. Palace charge for their under 23s matches, so we have to. Otherwise, Palace don't.
Right, yeah.
But I think as a rule, unless it's changed dramatically from last season, the same thing happened last season because Palace came up with us. You had to pay to watch the Palace match because they charged their fans for the under 23s games, and then the rest of them were just on YouTube for free. So hopefully Michael will not have to go through this painful process anymore.
But we looked pretty decent in it, and it sounded like a home game, which was nice as well. There was clearly an awful lot of Leeds fans there. When our goal went in, you heard a big cheer from it, which was good. Forshaw looked. He wouldn't have been the midfielder if I would have put in the first team based on that. But maybe that's a good thing because I thought Bate looked quite good. So
he's getting some good write-ups, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was good. Somerville looks really good every time I've seen him play. So stick him in the team, I say. There seems to now be a clamour for Somerville over Costa as a result of his under-23s performances, which, I mean, Costa does look, because he played in the under-23s a bit last year, he did look better at that level of football than he did in the first team. So it is worth probably mentioning that.
Costa scored an incredible goal for the under-23s last season. I can't remember who it was against, but it's kind of one of those lost moments. And it's weird because if you try to make any kind of positive point about Helder Costa by saying, well, he's good in the under-23s, people go, well, bloody rubbish, doesn't count. Whereas the only reason for getting Somerville in the team is that he's good in the under-23s. So it can't be both. I would like to see Somerville's performances not only in this game but in pre-season rewarded with getting into the team, and the obvious choice would be instead of Costa. I'm not sure Old Trafford on Saturday was necessarily the moment for it, but it feels like it's hard to know what Bielsa is going to do with his big 9-player bench because he doesn't seem particularly enamoured with the idea of just sticking players on. But then you never know, because if you remember at Arsenal last season, suddenly Niall Huggins is on the pitch from nowhere. So you get these debuts when you least expect them. And I think Somerville should be there. Greenwood, again, at least, is on the bench at Old Trafford. And there's maybe an argument for having them on the bench a few times before they actually get on the pitch. Not as many times as Robbie Gotts, obviously.
Did his career the world of good?
It did. And then Drama also looks like, Drama, he's got the problem with Luke Ayling. He's, if he carries on playing like he did at Old Trafford, he'll have to score a lot of those goals to kind of overcome the deficiencies in his performance on Saturday. But he's another one who has the potential.
He was brilliant yesterday as well. He assisted one of the goals in the second half, which I've seen the highlights of, but I've not seen the full game yet. But in the first half as well, what led to our penalty was him basically cutting in from the right and beating about 4 men and crossing it. So, yeah, he looks ready to step up, I would think. It's just that he has probably to get past Luke Ayling and depending on where else he might be needed in the team, Stuart Dallas, because Bielsa, I think, would probably play him as his second choice.
Just back to Somerville, he's evidently moving up in the pecking order, and it would seem that Poveda is falling down the pecking order. He wasn't in the squad, was he, for Old Trafford, Poveda?
Or for the under-23.
And he wasn't
so
in
he could
either.
be injured, he could be COVID, ill, anything. It's when he's not in either squad, there's already the social media verdict is, well, he's probably in jail, isn't he? Something's up. But I would think the likeliest explanation is, players have been disappearing with COVID at Leeds because they don't like commenting on when a player has it or not. They just say, they don't say anything. It just disappear for a while, don't they? Or an injury that he's not involved with either. But Somerville does seem to be has had a better pre-season, because when Poveda did play in pre-season, he wasn't having the impact that Jimmy was.
He's not really kicked on, has he? He had that moment where he was...
it's only the 17th of August.
No, I'm saying, but again, he did well against Man City when he came on in the home game, and then he did a bit of stuff against Chelsea in that away game, and then we've not really seen anything of him since, have we, to any great extent?
Well, he had injuries last season as well, didn't he? And the thing about Bielsa and his use of young players is that they don't get the opportunities very often. Poveda hasn't had the... Has he started? Did he start a game for us last season? I can't remember.
Game, I think.
Yeah, so he's not had that opportunity to come in and stay in. It's all been what he can do off the bench as a replacement to unbalance the opposition. And yeah, if you were going to criticise Bielsa a bit, he doesn't do the Eddie Gray dance, does he? Doesn't play the kids.
No.
Other kids who need playing straight away as well. McGurk scored his first goal for us, which was nice. My coaching method, if you watch this goal back, comes to him in the box, just twats it into the top corner. Yep. So that was good to see. And Clarkson saved a penalty as well.
We had a top corner twatting at the LUFC women game against Stockport. They opened their season account with a 1-0 win last minute, wasn't it? It was Kirsty Hunt who thwacked it in from the edge of the box on the 89th minute, which is nice. It's always nice when that happens. And
a game you can watch on YouTube.
You can.
If you want to see a crystal clear picture rather than a blurry one, this one is available. And it's also available at Tadcaster if you want to go to that this season. They're on Sundays, 2 o'clock, aren't they, generally, these games? So won't generally be clashing with the Leeds game. So rather than watching, some overpaid dickheads on Sky, go and watch this instead.
And you can watch the Square Ball sponsored fullback Olivia Smart, who was Stockport kept sort of bashing her about in this game. I don't know if they don't like our fanzine or something, but they seem to take against her. But it was a good thing that they got that late winner, because it was well deserved. It was watching Leeds just hammering them for most of the game, but just not quite getting a goal. So big relief when it came.
Very championshipy.
It was, yeah. It was like watching Bielsa's Leeds in the Championship, just, absolutely doing everything possible to beat a team, apart from putting the ball in the net until right at the end it did happen. And it was a good match, actually, from watching. It's a low level of women's football, this, in the pyramid, but it seems to have improved in standard from when I was watching it a few years ago, when it was Leeds ladies and Cellino had thrown them out of everything to do with the club summarily. The quality of the game was higher than I remember it being, so that's good. It was always, at that time, I always compare it because it was the Darko Milanic era. Really sticks out in my mind that watching Leeds play under Milanic was just miserable, and then watching Leeds on a Sunday at Garforth, as it was good. So if Bielsa's bunch of wasters keep just losing 5-1 every Saturday, there is relief to be found in a good Leeds team playing on Sundays at Tadcaster.
Well, as we know from the calm and measured reaction to the defeat at Old Trafford, we need a midfielder, and that's how we can stop being losers. Might not be Mateus Cunha, another Brazilian. Do we need another Brazilian?
Well, not if he's going to be on international duty. Yeah, I mean, it's a big issue.
Well, we've been linked with him, and Angus Kinnear, when we spoke to him, didn't deny that they'd scouted the likes of Cunha and Nandes, and it looks like that Nandes from Cagliari may be off to Spurs and Cunha maybe going to Atletico Madrid, which feels like it's a double pain, is this, because he's going to be linking up with you-know-who.
The two who flirted with us the most on Instagram, they've been cooking this up all along, haven't they?
Yeah.
Between them, you put this, then I'll put this, then I'll go first, then you do it, you lead them on a little bit longer, and then you can follow.
But
Bastards.
Cunha's essentially down tools, hasn't he, by the sounds of it, at Hertha Berlin. Like, the coach has been calling him out for an abysmal attitude. Like, he's just not bothering to try because he wants out.
Well, we've already got one of them, haven't we?
Yeah.
A sulking, moody, but talented Brazilian. No, let's not have a go at Rafinha. No, we are joking.
We love you, Rafa, if you, just on the very small off chance that you're listening. Lewis O'Brien.
He'll be smashing the mugs that we sent him against the wall, won't he? Tearing up those T-shirts.
Lewis O'Brien could well be the midfielder if indeed we do get a midfielder. So it seems like we're holding out with Huddersfield, with the deadline creeping closer and closer. They want more money than we're prepared to give them. He probably wants to come here because, well, you would, wouldn't you?
It feels like this probably will happen. I've no idea why, based on nothing. Just that I suppose the money involved isn't astronomical, is it? We're talking about probably £1 million or two different evaluations, and eventually we might just go, do you know what? Fine.
Or Huddersfield might just go, you know what? Fine. Have it.
That's it. I mean, and this is their window of opportunity to sell him as well, because they have got the right for a year's extension. And I didn't realise this, and you'll have to forgive me, I can't remember the name of the poster who mentioned it. It might have been straight out of Gibson, actually, who mentioned it on Wacko, that I never knew about this. There's sort of a Bosman Light ruling that allows players to unilaterally buy themselves out of the contracts after 3 years at one particular club. So he'd have the right to do that in another year's time, and they would lose him for, well, free or a nominal amount, based on a tribunal. So they really, if they're going to cash in on him, they need to do it this summer because he's 3 years in.
I'd like a tribunal. It seems like a nice throwback.
Yeah.
When players used to have to buy a player not knowing what you were paying for them, and then you'd get them and you go, oh, Jesus Christ, that was a bit more than we're thinking it would be, but never mind.
And if they then kept him for the extra year, he would be over 24, so they get nothing for him if he left at the end of that contract. So if they're going to cash in on him, it needs to be this summer, basically. So I think you can understand if Leeds are holding out to stop ponying up another couple of million, then fair enough.
The thing with it is, though, that we feel like we need him urgently, having lost 5-1 at the weekend without him. But then Huddersfield also lost 5-1 at the weekend without him. So it's maybe a question of whose need is greater. Who's 5-1? It was Fulham that beat them, wasn't it?
Did you see the goal from what's his face?
I mean, as if I'm watching Huddersfield.
I've not seen the clip from Mitrovic where it was just an almighty mess up at the back where they're trying to play Bielsa ball. The ball's gone back to the keeper right on the dead ball line. He's tried to do some sort of stupid half volley to get it away. It's hit Mitrovic about 6, 7, 8 yards out. He's fallen on his arse as it's hit him and rebounded into the net. It's just a beautiful scramble. It's the sort of thing that if you were watching a VHS in the olden days, you remember own goals and gaffes?
Yeah.
It would have made that, and then Danny Baker would have gone on and made a pithy remark.
Maybe never mind getting Lewis O'Brien recovered from the... People think he's had COVID for a while, don't they? They need to get Tom Lees fit and get him in the team to cut that sort of thing out.
Well, we're back to Ellen Road on Saturday. Thank the Lord. Full house. It's going to be great. Cannot wait to be in there. Hear it, see it, smell it, experience it.
Smell it specifically?
Well, I mean, I might have said before on one of the podcasts, for me, one of the smells that I always associate with Ellen Road is that dreadful, pungent smell of frying onions.
I thought you were going to say the old
beer farts,
10-pint fart. Sometimes I've just on a Saturday, I've done the work on a Friday night. I've drunk 10 pints. I'll eat a load of processed meat, and I'll just sit and fart in a room and just think, breathe in and cut the grass as well outside, so that I let that waft in through the window, so you get the full experience.
Well, it tends not to be too wafty in the East Stand, probably because it's a big sweeping open bank, and it's a bit more civilised in there compared to, let's say, the Cop or South Stand or whatever, where you tend to get the people who've been doing that sort of shocking behaviour, Michael. But it's going to be great to be back, isn't it? I mean, quite apart from the result in the first week, it's going to be quite moving, I think, to step back in the stadium.
It is. It's something I've been picturing for a very long time, mainly with disappointment at the end of it, because it's been like it feels like there's been a couple of occasions where it's like, oh, it looks like fans are going to get back in, and then it hasn't happened. So, yeah, I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be. It's always a little bit strange at the start of the season. It's always got that first day at school feeling a bit where you've forgotten how to do things. But I feel like it's going to be that even more so. And also the weird experience of, I assume there'll be things before the game to mark, like all the players we've lost and stuff. And
fans as well.
I was going to say, like, it's going to be one of those things where you look around and
is anybody missing?
There are a few people. I mean, it's going to be sold out, but there are going to maybe be the bloke who's sit in front of you is not there anymore or whatever, and that's going to be a weird thing, I think, to experience. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be emotional. I just hope we can put in a good performance so we don't end up within half an hour having to be thoroughly unhappy at the whole experience.
It was strange, the pre-match stuff at Old Trafford, and this is in no way to sort of demean his memory, but when they were reading out the names of all the people who've been lost since it was last game at Old Trafford from both teams, and then put them on the advertising hoardings, and the one that the cameras focused on and that came through most distinctly above the applause was Marius Salukas, and it was just a strange moment. Like, I'd forgotten, until it was reminded. Like, of course, Marius Salukas was lost, and you think all the great names that we've lost, you could never include Salukas as a great name for Leeds United, but it's somebody who, along the way that you are sad about losing in the circumstances, especially at the horrible young age he was, and it just kind of brings home just like how much and how many people there are to think about and talk about and remember. Even the fact his name ends with Z, it really is from A to Z, all the people that need to be thought about at that time. So it's going to be interesting to see how that's done, and whether it can be turned into. It's funny, isn't it? Then we very quickly turn into, well, how can we use that in a footballing sense to make sure we beat Everton?
Did you see that Everton put out that video of fans lost in the stadium and on socials, and somebody put in bloody photo of Anne Frank, honestly, and they put in some comedy names as well, which they must have sent in, like, Mike Hunt was always a favourite, for people texting radio stations and things like that, or Mike Hawk's hard as well. A
funny thing to hijack that, wasn't it? Well done, everybody.
But we've got that. It's funny, isn't it? We've got so many different things we need to kind of commemorate, mark, acknowledge. Like, we've got all the people lost during COVID. We've got to celebrate the fact that these lot were champions as well, and yet a lot of them are not there anymore. So we're singing champions to people who we've signed more recently, and because that happened at Blackburn as well. Like, they came towards the away end, and there's that little group of like Ayling and like Cooper wasn't there, but Dallas was there. So it was kind of, we're singing to you, but not quite to you. We do like you as well, but not quite as much as them. This is for them. This song. I feel like
there'll probably be a Pablo song at some point as well, just for people to be like, well, we need to sing this together at least once more.
He might be watching on telly or on a catch-up facility in Castellon.
Do you think we can get Barry Douglas back on loan for the weekend?
What, to ping in a free kick?
Well, yeah, to play left back even.
It took him 3 minutes, didn't it, to score for Poznan?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was his first game, but it was, he's straight back into it.
But yeah, it does feel like we've got a lot to acknowledge, and just the emotion of being back it's going to be something else. And I can feel myself kind of the emotion rising in me just thinking about it, because it's been so bloody long. You forget is it 18 months since we were in there?
It's a proper game as well. I feel like Everton are a very good, solid club to be playing in this game. Like, it would have felt like a little bit of a disappointment if we were playing Watford, which is harsh on Watford. But I'd have been a bit like, it's not really a Premier League game, though, is it?
I mean, if Richarlison plays, then we are playing Watford. So
true enough.
Richarlison probably will play. They've got a different setup this season to last season. It felt like they were attempting something a bit more flamboyant by having James Rodriguez in there and having a fancy coach. And now they've got Rafa Benitez, who, he is a fancy coach in the sense that he's Spanish, but the football seems to be a lot more dour.
He's done a fair number of big clubs as well, hasn't he? And he did win the Champions League for their hated rivals. So a Champions League winning coach, you can't say he's not fancy. That's almost the definition of fancy.
Yeah, but the football's not fancy, isn't it? We were promised, I think it was the commentary that we were watching over the weekend, of we'll face a low block, as the cool kids like to say these days, which is people defending deep and hitting you on the break.
I think it's just that Andros Townsend is not a glamorous sort of player, is he? Although his hair has improved significantly since he was at Leeds. So if you're looking for glamour, maybe see it in that.
Yeah, Michael Keane just doesn't really have that little it's just not quite there, is it? They're going to cross a lot anyway. That's what I learned from. I only sort of half watched Match of the Day on Saturday night and noticed their weird non-coverage of our match where they basically showed the goals and then went, Scum were good, weren't they? Yeah, and then moved on, which was almost a relief. But all I really noticed was Alan Shearer said Everton cross a lot. So if they don't cross a lot, Alan Shearer's a fool. If they do cross a lot, we need to stop Dominic Calvert-Lewin from heading their crosses into our net. And so those are the two routes to victory for Leeds United. If they do cross, stop them from crossing. If they don't cross and they're doing something else, stop them from doing whatever that is.
Well, let's get a bit more granular on this. Do they cross from out wide? I assume that their crosses come from out wide because that's normally how things happen in football, isn't it?
Are you looking to me for this?
Well, you're the tactical expert, yeah?
Yes. I don't think does it count as a cross if it's not from out wide? It's just a long ball, isn't it? If it's through the middle cross,
well, this is
that's not crossing. That's longing.
This is the debate about the LUTV under 23s highlights, because they've tweeted the first goal against Crystal Palace saying it was a cross and a finish, and the cross that they're referring to is it Jack Jenkins inside his own half on the left wing, pinging a ball over to the right wing that Somerville then runs into the box with and scores. Not a cross.
It's a cross-field ball.
Yeah. Yes, but that's a very different thing from a cross. And what we're expecting with Everton is definitely not cross-field balls. It's going to be Andros Townsend getting to the byline and crossing for Dominic Calvert-Lewin over and over again, unless Alan Shearer's a liar.
Who let his country down, it's worth saying, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as did Jordan Pickford, because he only saved 2 penalties.
And not all of them.
Yeah. So, disgraceful. I hope
we're going to be singing it to Calvin Phillips if he plays in this game.
I think I did suggest this at some point over the weekend that we should do it just to show we mean business. just so people can't accuse us of anything. Go, oh, we've been singing it him.
How do you think this one's going to go then? I fancy us to win this. What is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you?
We just lost 5-1, did you not see?
Yeah, I did, but that's no reason to chuck I was going to say all your optimism out the window, but you don't have any, do you?
I had a bit. I think I said we'd lose 3-2 at Old Trafford, which was optimistic as it turns out. So, yeah, I mean, we can beat them. We can beat them. They should be an easier team for us to play against because they are a more reserved and, I don't know, a more settled kind of arrangement I expect under Benitez. They won't quite have the free-running players from the middle.
And they're just not as good.
That is the main point.
That's the thing. Pogba and Fernandes tore us apart on Saturday. Who out of Andros Townsend and Richarlison is going to be the one to do that on this Saturday? The quality just isn't there. So we'll be fine. We'll beat them. We'll beat them 5-1. We'll beat them 5-0. And then we'll be positive goal difference again, and then nobody's got any room to complain.
I think we do this one. It's 2-0 or 3-1, I think, this game for us. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, probably the same.
What's heart and head saying? Come on.
We can win it. Of course we can. We were decent against Everton last year, and I don't think they've got any stronger. And I think we have, other than playing at Old Trafford, which was a disaster. But I think we should be better. So, yeah, why not? Let's win this 2-1.
Heroes and villains then now, part 3 of the show. And before we get round to picking a villain and a hero of the week, we need to attend to some democracy. If you were listening to the show at the back end of the season, we put forward a motion to potentially change the Hero of the Week award from being named after Andy Hughes to Gaetano Berardi. Now, did we just get caught up in the emotion, or is it time to evolve this into something else?
The responses did seem emotional. I don't think we can possibly say that heart is not ruling head in a lot of this. Steve Ovenden said it's one of the toughest decisions he's ever made. Maybe we have to rename our studio after Andy Hughes, since we don't have any stands and we can't afford a statue. Other people said Andy should be informed and we should make it clear to him that he is still a most heroic man, which, if you are watching this, Ten Dog, absolutely still a hero in all our hearts and minds.
Well, he does know about it. That's the thing. It was brought to his attention. by Leeds.
By a grass.
Yeah, I was going to say by one of our lovely subscribers, Leeds Viv, but a grass nonetheless.
Yeah, Vivek made the good point to Andrew that although Berra did a lot for this club, but Hughesy played under Wise and Bates and with Elding and Sweeney. Let's not forget the sacrifices he had to make, and Hughes responded exactly, leave it as it is. So that's a strong opinion, because there was some sentiment throughout the responses, and there were a lot of responses that it needs to be all right with Andrew. Jez made a good point. He said that if Andy does agree with it, he deserves to be the first recipient of it for allowing the change. So I think one of the themes that's really come out of this is, even as we were all consumed with the emotion at seeing Berardi leaving us forever, the respect that people still have for Andrew Hughes of, we really want this to be named after Gaetano Berardi now, but we really don't want Andrew Hughes to think for a moment that we don't still love him, really shows through. Sazzy BM, who is also, a long servant of the podcast as well. Andy Hughes will always have a special place in our hearts, and his Hero of the Week award became about because of the achievements of that team, hauling us out of League One. But it's a new era, and we need a new hero for the new generation of Leeds fans. And I think that fits quite well with Ryan's. He suggested it twice that we should rename it after Major Buckley, our manager of the 1950s. So if that's not an option, John Charles isn't also an option. Pablo Hernandez was suggested. Pazabam's got in there.
But it's about the underdog, isn't it? It's about the player of, if we're being completely fair, limited ability but big heart.
And just to round up the other options, there was quite a few people wanted to go for the Hughes Berardi Hero of the Week, the Hughes Berardi Medal, Andy Berardi, the Gaetano Hughes, the Berardi Hughes, the Andano Hugardi, the Gady Barus. Elliot came up with, not Andy Hughes' mum, suggested the Gaetano Berardi Andy Hughes Hero of the Week.
There was a suggestion that we name the booze baton after Andy Hughes as well.
The Andy Hughes baton.
The Andy Hughes baton.
Which we haven't forgotten about. It's a long-standing historical feature, just to explain for any new listener, about going and getting pissed to celebrate our promotion, which is now a long time ago, but because of COVID we couldn't go, and it moved several locations. It ended in Munich, but it feels like it might be getting relocated to Castellon. Long story.
And on the plus side, it's that long ago, there will have been some people listening to this podcast thinking, I'd like to go to that, but I'm 17, so it might not be ideal for me to get served.
And now I'm 32.
Exactly, now I'm old enough. It's just my wife and kids that will be a barrier to me going on this trip.
And with the at the risk of turning this momentarily into a West Ham podcast, it rhymes. The Andy Hughes booze baton. You can go, I'm offering Andy Hughes. Yeah. Offer a news up. So that works. Yeah. So maybe that's one way of accommodating him, and it's slightly more elegant than the suggestion for the Andy Hughes Hero of the Week, with nominees each week receiving a Gaetano Berardi Honourable Certificate. There's a lot of very convoluted ways of trying to keep Hughesy's hero status while also making room for Berardi. We haven't actually mentioned the statistics in the end, though, have we? Because the actual vote results, all these ways people try to find of working round it. Can we have them both? Can we just name it after Major Buckley? Can we do this? 84.2% said change it to Gaetano Berardi. 9.5% said keep it as Andy Hughes Hero of the Week. That doesn't add up. No. But I think there was people just went for both or neither.
Well, I've got an idea. Let's tap into that crypto socios vibe, right?
Yes. And if you want us saying this, pay us.
Well, yeah, well, it is true, because it is only our subscribers who can vote in this. But
when their investments will not go down, though, will they? So
no, it will only go up.
It's not going up either.
Well, I'm just going to say, because they had a vote about goal music in Italy and then ran the same poll about a month later, like, do you want to keep it? So we should do the same here.
Are you suggesting now the emotion of it all is out of the way, there'll be a different result?
It's a time for cool heads now to
Does this
view
mean
it.
I've got to set up another Google form?
Oh, we could just do what Ridsdale did with the stadium move and just rig it. Just doctor it, yeah. Fine. Well, let's put that one on the back burner just for now. We'll keep it as it is. We don't want to change it just yet and get into it.
So there's been an 84% vote in favour of changing it, and we're not doing it.
Yeah, it feels like we should probably just do it.
Should we just do it?
It's quite a mandate, I would say. It's not. There's not an awful lot of room for error in that.
I suggest we're probably going to upset more people by not respecting 84% of our electorate than we are.
All right.
You lost. Get used to it, Dan.
Let's take a final vote on it then. Now between the three of us will provide a majority, won't it, one way or another? So who votes that we change it now?
I'm just here to represent the views of my constituents, and I think we should change it.
So hands up then, please, and say it on the mic because we've got video and audio. So hands up, who wants to change it? Moscow, Michael, and so do I.
Okay.
It's unanimous.
So us three and all the people who voted wanted to change it, and for some reason you still wanted to vote again.
I was playing devil's advocate. It's my job as the host of the show to do that.
But if you do want to replicate the Socios Roma goal music thing, where it was because Italy won the Eurovision Song Contest, so then they had another vote a week later. Said, "Do you want to change it to that?" If people feel like it's not working for them, then get in touch and let us know that they feel strongly that we should change it back.
So we can ignore you.
We will review the decision, the implications as we go along, and see whether it feels right or wrong, and also whether we can
be asked.
Remember,
are we overlooking here the fact that there's a silent minority? Keep it anything as it is. That's what Ken Bates always used to say, wasn't it? That whatever, if anything happened that he didn't want, he just used to say, "Well, that's because all the people who want the other thing."
He'd have got a letter.
Didn't mention.
He'd have got a letter from a 9-year-old that he invented, wouldn't he? His handwriting, and he always used to say that their handwriting was terrible.
It was Suzannah doing it with her left hand, wasn't it? That's who it was.
Doing what with her left hand?
It's good to have the variety, isn't it?
Let's move on. The Ken Bates Villain of the Week award is what we kick off this section with. Then good and proper nominations via our TSB Plus subscribers. Yeah, Leeds, just as a whole entity, not the city, I don't think, but the football club, Leeds United, got nominations galore for the shite that was served up at the weekend.
Jim has nominated Solskjaer as the most ignorant twat ever, and I would definitely go along with him about him celebrating like a prick. He was particularly annoying, and it seemed like a new thing that he's trying for this season, that he knows the camera's on him and he's going to give like a high five to Michael Carrick and stuff, which Michael Carrick's presence leads me on to my other problem with Solskjaer, which was his post-match comments. And the big thing at Old Trafford is always, we're coming out from under the shadow of Alex Ferguson. They were leaving all that behind.
He lives inside the man's rectum.
And he was talking about the way that Pogba and Fernandes and Greenwood had played, and Solskjaer's views. I remember Wayne. Of course, he didn't need to use his surname.
Was it Lil Wayne he was talking about?
I remember Wayne, Carlos Tevez, and Ronaldo playing together. First game of the season.
Talking about Wayne Lineker,
and he can't even just let go of these players. And there was a big report in the Athletic that was then it went on to. Who else was it? Oh, McTominay arriving like Scholesy, and the moment when Raphael Varane embraced Rio Ferdinand at the side of the pitch. And why not just get them back to play if you love them so much? Forget about spending millions of pounds on these new players. Van der Beek, and you never even play him anyway. Go and bring back Kleberson.
I think we need to talk about Jim's other nomination as well, because he had a couple of goes at submitting this form. He said the second submission was, as this first was too emotional, so he's gone away and thought about this and whose fault it actually wasn't, who were the real villains, and he's come back with Moscow and Dan. Caught myself thinking, what if we beat Scum and went on to win the league? Your faults.
We can still win the league even though we haven't beaten them and they've thumped us. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it happened last year. I mean, we didn't win the league last year, but we
came close. We nearly did.
We ended up one win fewer than Chelsea,
who won the Champions League.
So that's
we were one game off winning the Champions League last year.
Admittedly, they were hamstrung for the first few months of the season because they had that idiot Lampard in charge. Whereas we didn't have to go through the struggles that they have. But yeah, we can still do a lot. And also, I know a joke about us beating Liverpool on the opening day last season. We did lose at the start of last season. So
did we?
No. Forget that happened. I went into a different dimension. We lost.
In terms of scumbags, the Rio Ferdinand was picked out by Kit. It was sort of a generic, he's just a prick nomination.
Pogba picked out for being good, competent at football as cheating, which is yet another fair point, I think.
Not a fan. Joe Cole and the BT team, just as Tom put it, I couldn't put it any better myself, just pulling nonsense out of his arse. about us dying after 70 minutes. Now, quite apart from the fact we got absolutely, twatted at Old Trafford, it's just not true, is it? We get better as the game wears on.
Would you rather watch Joe Cole pull things out of his arse or listen to him speak?
It's the same thing, isn't it? As we've just...
It's niche, but it might be better.
Jim O did point out that BT Sport essentially turned into MUTV for the day, and there was a bit of an afterthought element to Leeds, which, to be fair though, in the post-match I was quite pleased about because I didn't want to concentrate on our shortcomings. Yeah,
I mean, Tom Cole picked that match of the day for not providing any analysis on Leeds, although he did concede that might have actually been a good thing. So we'll let them off, I think.
Down on the mean streets of Salford as well, the street vendors there selling the half and half scarves were picked out by Mike. Yeah, a crime against humanity, quite frankly.
Well, when the supply dries up or dries out after the fire extinguishers have dampened it down, that won't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, it does make you slightly terrified for football tourism coming to your football club, doesn't it? And a 60,000-seater stadium, it'll be all nice and sanitised, and you'll have, running taps, and people might not be pissing in the sinks. You might even be able to get beer at half-time, all that kind of crazy shit that we can look forward to.
Well, none of it's to look forward to, according to Roger, because he's nominated Victor Alter for this, and, I mean, he was quite strong in his criticism in the propaganda section as well.
I mean, Roger went... Well, if you haven't seen that yet or heard it, Roger went wild.
But here he's accused Alter of Dudbai's poisoned the great promotion-winning team. Cock Rodrigo, sick note Llorente, showboat Rafinha. Pre-season form is set to continue. We'll struggle for points to Christmas. Dan James panicked buying the window. Bielsa quit and gone home by Easter. I mean, people call me pessimistic. That is properly... Like, even I don't think it'll be that bad.
Luke Ayling has been nominated here. That's not good, is it?
For not getting his guitar out and his hair out.
It feels like a minimal quibble. There's that one versus some of the other crimes we saw on Saturday.
I think it was all too unexpected for him. He seemed to be trying to do a combination of all his celebrations. As he ran away, there's a bit of the chicken arms that he was doing at Hull, and then there's a little bit of guitar as he's running towards the away end, and then he just simulates sex with Stuart Dallas. Seems to be the easiest way. But I don't know if you watched the footage from the media day. They made him do his celebrations for the cameras in front of a green screen, and he had a real struggle to get his bobble out. It was very difficult for him to do that. He couldn't do it cleanly. And then there was a bit of joking back and forth where they wanted him to do a third celebration. He was like, "I'm not scoring 3 goals. Don't be ridiculous." But already got one, so he needs to start. Maybe because he's got the guitar and hair still fully in reserve, that can come for his next goal, and then he can think of something for his third one.
I mean, Angus Kinnear was correct when he told us that the Socios thing, we wouldn't be speaking about it in another week or two's time, and it's absolutely right, because Keith has nominated Socios, but it does feel a little bit misplaced now, because we should be turning all our attention on the people who run Leeds United and crying at them to sign some players in the transfer window. And be furious when they don't.
As long as it's not Victor Alter buying more duds, I suppose. One he did sign, actually, and I was quite pleased with this nomination. Ben White, nominated by Simon, which was for letting Calvin eat what he wanted on his holiday, which I think is his fault.
Well, we were talking about the fact they went to see that guy, the steak thing, what's he called? The
Salt Bay.
Salt Bay, that's the one, yeah, who does the thing with his elbow. And he's obviously been on probably the chips rather than the steak. A bit too much.
Maybe Ben White's just too kind. If Calvin was coming out going, "Oh, is this too tight? Do I look a bit?" And he's going, "No, honestly, you look great.
Yeah.
You look great. Can we go out?
Yeah.
Let's just get out. You look good. It's fine, Calvin. Don't worry about it." And then he's taking that as an invite to guzzle more. I mean, we don't actually know confirmed yet if he is overweight, do we? But that has been,
everyone's overweight for
that
Bielsa.
has been the rumour. Well, that is true. You've seen Liam Cooper, who is about the only one not overweight, and he looks poorly, doesn't he? So let Calvin be healthy.
But then, as we mentioned on propaganda, if he's only played half as many games in pre-season as the other ones, he's not had the time to burn off whatever he came back with, and it's, he'll get there and will win the league.
Koch gets picked out for his role in the midfield. Not his fault, I don't think this is it. He was trying his best within the limits of his abilities, and he didn't pick himself there, did he? He just did what he could do.
But it wasn't good enough.
It was Bielsa's fault, I'm afraid to say.
No one said this was fair.
I mean, this is the sort of the flip side to how good Pogba and Fernandes were. You take them out and you've got, who is it, that Van den Beek character that they bought and hate. and we touched on this last season, that the bigger your teams get, it's where I started making a fool with myself of who plays backup striker for Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich. But, the reserve replacing Neymar, okay, now it's Messi. So that's an improvement. But yes, back at Barcelona, they had Messi, but then the next player is Martin Braithwaite off of Middlesbrough. So these gaps, they get bigger the better the players you are. And now that we have a bona fide £100 million player in the form of Calvin Phillips, anybody who goes in to try and do that job in his place is not going to be the standard. And Robin Koch, for all these failings on Saturday, is a German international who has played in midfield for Germany. And maybe the flip side of this is, instead of bemoaning his villainy, we celebrate the quality of Calvin Phillips, that he's that good, that even a German international replacing him in the team can't get close to the kind of performances that we see from Calvin Phillips and appreciate from Calvin Phillips.
Unfortunately, I've just been thinking about Dawson's Creek for the last couple of minutes when you were talking there, because Donny van der Beek reminds me of James van der Beek, who played Dawson in Dawson's Creek. And now I've got the theme tune to Dawson's Creek going round in my head.
What is it?
I don't want to wait
yeah.
for a left. I don't want to get a copyright strike on that. It's going to be so accurate.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that won't be picked up by any algorithm.
It's going to be, the algorithm will identify that as so close to the original recording that we'll get a copyright strike on that. Oh dear. Is that everybody? I think it is. Let's pick a villain of the week.
Well, Bielsa, did we mention him specifically, and the devil on his shoulder?
I did mention it then before I started thinking about Dawson's Creek, and then went back into a world of my own teenage angst.
So Bielsa's in there. Ryan from Australia has come all the way around the world to nominate him as a villain. Andy in there as well. I think also Andy's other nomination, the Premier League Fixture Computer, for making us play them first. And when he says quite rightly, we could have had Newcastle at home. Although we're requested for it away, I suppose, so that's on us. But why are we having to play last year Liverpool, this year Scum? Next year, is it going to be Paris Saint-Germain?
Well, probably, because as we've discussed over the last 24 hours in all our podcasts, it's everything is just gradually homogenising to be Paris Saint-Germain will be the only team in the world.
It'll be PSG versus PSG reserves, which is what
PSG
we were going to be when everyone thought Qatar were buying us, weren't they? So that's the future that may yet still come to pass.
Bet Qatar would have bought us some players, wouldn't they? Yeah. Anyway,
potless. They're not potless.
Pick yourself a villain of the week.
It's weird. I feel like Joe Cole, just because it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. He's had all summer to sort that out as well. It's not like it was just from, he was analysing the game last week and he'd maybe not seen it. He's had months to prepare for the first match of the season and just comes out with that.
I'm happy with that.
Rubbish.
It was put to me over the weekend that he looked completely wrong to be a pundit as well. The words were, let me have a look. Joe Cole is the least ex-footballer looking ex-footballer ever. Looks like he works in sales. So if you do work in sales...
That's harsh on people who work in sales.
Yeah, people who work in sales. But then I kind of, if you do think about the stereotype, Frank Lampard also comes into that. I remember distinctly the Derby playoff final, and he looked like a photocopy salesman on the piss when he was running around the pitch afterwards. So I wonder what it is about the golden generation that they've all, with the millions that they earned and the lifestyles that they led, that they've got to this point and they just have no imagination, brains in Joe Cole's case. And I don't think there's any reason to imagine Lampard is any brighter.
So Frank Lampard is the villain of the week. Is that what we're coming to?
Yes, for wearing boring shirts.
So Joe Cole then.
Yeah, fine.
West Ham by extension. They're all the same person, essentially, aren't they?
On to the, for now anyway, Andy Hughes Hero of the Week award. Someone who has done good by... It's the
Gaetano Berardi Hero of the Week award.
Oh, yeah. Look, a lot's happened. I've been thinking about Dawson's Creek. You'll have to forgive me. It's the now renamed Gaetano Berardi Hero of the Week award, with a nod still to Andy Hughes, because we haven't thought what we're going to do with you yet, Andy. Right, Luke Ayling gets loads of nominations.
I mean, Luke Ayling wins it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. Yeah, he gets nominated by everyone.
Simon, Ryan, Aidan, Nathan, Tom, Keith, Paul, Katie, Darren, Jim. Yeah, everyone's saying Luke Ayling. So is that it then? Good.
A little tour of the other ones. I'm glad Tom nominated Dan James for being thoroughly championship. Until it all went wrong, I was really enjoying Dan James's performance because he was rubbish. And I was also enjoying hearing the chants of "You're too shit to play for Leeds." I hope it's all enough to take the idea of ever signing him off the table. I know Melier did that interview with Phil Hay, didn't he, where he was talking about Chelsea trying to sign him at the end of a transfer window way before he came to Leeds, and him saying, well, maybe 2 weeks ago perhaps, but now why would I go to Chelsea? And also, he'd seen the way that they treated Jamal Blackman and all their other goalkeepers who were never going to get in the team. And I hope we did enough on Saturday that if Marcelo Bielsa insists, he sends Victor Orta over there. Do not come back without Dan James. Dan James is just like, why would I ever want to play for Leeds United ever again? And I'm happy if he doesn't. Until he obviously signs for us, in which case I will be getting D. James on the back of my shirt.
Well, we got nominated for villainy, me and you, Moscow, whereas Michael has been put forward as a hero by Jim, who, remember, got too emotional with his first submission, so went away, cleared his head, came back, had to think about it. He's nominated Michael as a hero because pessimism is the way forward.
Cleared his head in this case means like downing half a bottle of vodka, if that's the answers he came up with.
Well, I'm taking it anyway.
Yeah.
If Michael is the answer, what was the question?
Some of the outliers. Then the ref got picked out by another Jim O.
That was the same Jim. I think he had a few goes.
He had that half a bottle of whiskey taking care of it, was it?
Yeah, and he was right actually. It was actually kind of annoying to not have to not be able to criticise the ref. I know there was that late penalty he could have maybe given us, but like he was fine, wasn't he?
And even the offside goal, which would have been given offside last year, even though it's against them and even though it contributed towards a heavy defeat, on balance, it's the way you want to see it applied, isn't it? It's a really difficult moral conundrum for us, this one.
In the long run, it's better that goals like that
Not
count.
that specific.
Not that one specifically, but in principle, I'm in favour of it. Just the exact circumstances here, I'm against those.
Yeah, ideally they'd have been coming out after the game saying a mistake has been made here. Under the new rules, that goal should have counted. The referee has applied the rules wrongly on this occasion, but this won't be happening again in future. That would have been
what happened
the right
to
thing.
us with Robin Cox handball in the same game last season. Within weeks, they said, "Oh, we're not going to penalise anybody for that anymore." And I don't see why we haven't been given Pat Bamford's goal back at Palace yet. They need to retrospectively go back through last season, give all our goals. Tyler Roberts will be top scorer, and everybody will be much happier. But yeah, we have to grudgingly say justice, for whatever it's worth.
It is worth pointing out, though, with that they said they're not going to show us drawing the lines, but they would show us the results of the VAR. And it was quite interesting that they didn't even show the lines because they want to avoid any controversy whatsoever. Like, it's going to be, because I think under the new rules, if the lines are touching, then they let it go, don't they? And that's the thing.
In fairness, you looked at it and you can normally see the lines on the pitch, and you can in your head shuffle them forwards, and you can go, yeah, it's more or less in it.
Yeah, but even then I was
fine.
going, well, where's Luke Ayling's sleeve and where's his thigh? And
It's nice to not have to think like that, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It was just
remove it from the conversation.
It was just emotionally draining last year, having to watch arguments about like how high a sleeve is. Like, oh, if he'd had a shorter sleeve on, he wouldn't have been offside there, and all this sort of stuff. So,
and not showing us, I think, helps, because we were talking about this last season, that if you stop talking about refereeing decisions all the time, refereeing decisions feel less important. So I think maybe they should feel, whenever they were going to, or the temptation is there to press the button and show the lines, either a kitten on the screen, something like that, or a fabulous piece of skill or something that's happened in the game, just to really, it was like those, you could get ad blocking extensions, which I'm saying because I'm pointing at a laptop, that replace adverts with kittens or artwork or, beautiful things to look at instead. And I feel the same opportunity now exists for us with the offside pixel lines. Maybe just some MS Paint pictures can be put on screen, not of offside lines, just of stuff.
Yeah, fine. I'm all for it. So just to clarify our point, just so we're absolutely sure on this, we want goals like that in the long run to be fine, but that one still should have been given offside.
Correct.
Right, fine. Who is your hero of the week?
Sakiri Dembele.
Why?
The Peterborough striker who Rob points out scored a 100th minute winner against Derby County to put them in the relegation places. And then, I don't know if it's the way it's been copied and pasted, but Rob signs off with a kiss. And then that little X. And do you know why they played until 100 minutes?
I don't, but I saw it was very funny because they lost in the 90+1 and then 90+10 minutes.
All that injury time was because, and it's not funny for the player involved, but Kazim Richards got a serious foot injury and is going to be out for months. They're one.
It's a good job they have squad depth though, so that's
the thing. I have absolutely no axe to grind with Kazim Richards whatsoever, and I bet that really hurts.
Funny though,
damaging his foot. But for the wider Derby County Wayne Rooney
experiment
that is going on, nothing could have been better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like we're in a position to laugh at them too much this weekend because it was particularly painful. Laugh at them we can, but I don't think we could, put this one at the top of the mountain and say, look, that's our hero right there, because we've had other stuff to contend with.
I mean, it's Luke Ayling this week, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, just don't look at his defending.
So the inaugural Gaetano Berardi Hero of the Week award goes to Luke Ayling under difficult circumstances, but he brought us a whole raft of entertainment. We're not quite sure what the celebration was. There were hints of guitar. The hair at one point, is that going to come down? And then it got into, I said on the other one, match ball. Wasn't even dry humping, was it? There was just a lot of friction.
Maybe Stuart Dallas requested the hair stay up because he doesn't like it when it gets in his face or something like that. I don't know. It could be a bit.
Yeah.
Which, maybe avoid that.
Thanks for that image, Michael. Appreciate that. Hey, do check out TSB Plus if you haven't yet got subscribed to that, if you fancy going all in with us and supporting what we do. thesquareball.net/plus. And we'll catch you next time.
The Square Ball Podcast.